book. Check out the countdown. Oh, snap. That means ropes is going down. Let's get it. Oh, the party's over here. 5 years of Off the Top Rope. Wednesday night, August 17th, marks a celebration. You can't celebrate, though, without magic. My guest, he's made magic in wrestling, in the ring, as an author, and he speaks from the heart about the squared circle. Joining the anniversary celebration, night number 1, Wrestling Magic Mike Kinney. He talks it up with your boy Ty Asbury about, of course, his podcast, his book, and what he's up to next in pro wrestling. Watch Off the Top Rope Wednesday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We celebrate the ropes in anniversary style. And as always, of course, you know how we do it. Sizzling and live.
The Ropes Media. Tyrod Asbury. Yeah. Tyrod Asbury. Yeah. Every chance you get to hear us, you clear us. Just the time on the radio. My opinion's my opinion. Every time you hear me now moving.
What is up, everybody? It's Wednesday night, and you know what's going down as always. It is Off the Top Rope Wednesday night. I want to say first and foremost, I want to thank all the fans for following the show because it's been a great 5 years. Tonight, I celebrate 5 years in wrestling podcast and couldn't have done it without all you wonderful fans. And of course, we talk about greatness and an anniversary. I got to have one guy on the show that can help get this party jamming. Of course, he is, of course, public speaker, former pro wrestler. He got a book that just came out. And of course, promoter. He is, I call him Wrestling with Magic, Mike Kinney. Mike, my man, what's up?
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, man. And, you know, I want to say first and foremost, thank you for being on the show because you are added to the list of all the wonderful talent that I've interviewed over the years. So thank you, man, for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the roast, man, because I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah, you know, lately it's things have picked up a little bit for sure, but it's always really great to get out here and do as many interviews as I can and just give back as often as I can. So it's really my pleasure.
Exactly. You know, Mike, and the thing about it is like you like, of course, outside of the fact, you being a father, husband and everything, like on average night, like tonight, how are you doing tonight? Like, do you actually get, besides doing the podcast, of course, do you have a night like tonight where you can just rest and just like, take a deep breath? Because I'm sure you got tomorrow's probably jam-packed on your schedule.
You know, I haven't publicly made this known at all. I got laid off from my day job in the middle of June. And so it couldn't have come at a worse time. My family and I had just gotten back from vacation, and literally we got home on a Sunday night. Monday morning, I got laid off. A whole bunch of us got laid off that day. And so my summer has been spent really interviewing and looking for a day job and trying to continue to support my family the best way I can. Now, that's one of the busiest things I've ever done. It's more than a full-time job, interviewing, looking for work. It's very stressful, especially you don't always have a paycheck coming in. So I've been very fortunate because I've had some of these other things lately that have really kept me occupied. I did a community play over the summer, and that was so much fun. I got to do, it was such a great distraction, and I worked with some very talented people. But between the book and the podcast and interviewing, it's been a crazy busy summer. It's just been a bit of a different one for me because I've also been in the job market.
Mike, if people don't know, tell people, like, if it don't matter what podcast it is, wrestling, cooking, baking, how to put a bike together. You could probably vouch for me. Podcasting is not easy because you could probably let everybody know you got to get guests, you got to promote the thing, and like you said, it's not easy. And I've seen your work, and it's just like you ever think to yourself, man, podcast is not easy, but I love it.
Yeah, you know what I made the mistake of doing? So My fourth episode is getting ready to launch. It'll be live next week. And I made the mistake early on of thinking, oh, I can do like 2 episodes a month.
Yeah.
And that didn't seem like a lot, but holy smokes, you're not kidding. It's you're advertising, you're dealing with talent. Sometimes there's cancellations and you're having to reschedule at the last minute. You're looking at your schedule, trying to figure out when you want things to go live in a strategic way. Then that's not even including the research you have to do for the interview. Once the interview is done, it's edit time, which is a whole other kind of animal. I mean, there is a significant amount of work that comes into doing a podcast, and you have to love it because there's not a lot of funds coming in for doing podcasts these days. At least not at my level, not quite yet.
Mike, you've been in the business, my brother, for a long time. I mean, you've been doing this for so long. I researched that, like I said, since you was a kid, man. You got started in business, and you've seen how technology has taken over wrestling. And do you think wrestling podcasting, is it good for the business? Is it bad for the business? Or it's like a little in between?
So my time in wrestling was from 1998 through 2007. So really, when I got out, YouTube was very, very young. It was maybe a year or two old. And there wasn't a lot of, and I think about in 98 when I was trying to break in, there weren't very many avenues for anybody to be able to do that because the internet was really in its infancy. Now, if you've been a fan a long time, you might remember the old PWI magazines. And in the very back, there was always this thing that said, if you want to be a professional wrestler, send us $15 for this booklet to tell you how to be a wrestler. Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer wrote that book, and I still have my copy to this day. And I remember going through there and circling and trying to find schools and understand the business and all of that. That was very, very hard to do. Today, there is more than enough assets at everybody's hands to be able to learn about the wrestling business, which I think is great. And the market right now in terms of podcasts and information being out there is at its peak.
Yeah.
So if you're a wrestling fan, or if you're someone that's looking to break into wrestling, or maybe both, probably both, then this is your renaissance. I mean, this is the greatest time to be someone who wants to get into the wrestling business because there's so much information out there. Now, that being said, you asked me if I think it's a good thing. I think it is a good thing if you have a really good BS filter, because there's a lot of people that want to sell you a false bill of goods just to collect some money from you. So because there's so much information out there, you have to be very, very careful about the information that you consume and not just think that everything that you're hearing is the truth. My grandma said, you believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. All right. So that's my advice to the world out there. You got to be very selective in terms of what you are seeing out there and what you're consuming.
Yeah. Like I said, amen to that. And like you said, it could be a good thing to get into wrestling because, I mean, it's like you said, I would think back in the day, in order to get an interview, you had to take like a little cassette tape, press the button, record, and go interview the wrestler. But like you said, everything is like right there in front of you. I mean, I think now you can do a podcast on your phone. I mean, I'm guessing. So like, it's just really, really, really crazy. But that's a good thing too. Enlighten the fans that, podcasting, it's at its peak. I mean, it seems like we went from audio to video podcasting is the big things. I remember audio was like the thing. Now everybody has grown into the video aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's so true. I'm finding that out the hard way. I thought, as I'm doing my podcast, it's in my mind, it's all got to be audio. And then the interviews that I'm doing with folks, I'm actually putting the interviews on YouTube. And I've had people come to me and say, Mike, you could do so much more with this podcast. I've watched it on YouTube. And I'm thinking, well, that's just a fraction of what I'm talking about on my pod. So I'm having to change my format as I go because the demand, to your point, is video. People want to see you. They want to interact with you. And they want to be a part of something.
Yeah. Mike, every time I see you, man, if it's on social media, interviews, whatever, you're always smiling. And I got to say that I can tell by looking, man, you're a blessed guy. Even though you've hit the hard times, you always keep that smile on your face, man. I can tell you're like a smiler, man. Like, it's just like,
well,
nothing wrong about that. I can tell, man. I can tell.
Yeah. Here's the reality. I've worked for everything that I have. I grew up in a very lower middle class family. My parents were awesome. But we didn't have a lot. My dad was a meat packer. My mom worked odd jobs to just really keep food on the table. but we never wanted for anything. I mean, it was very, I had a great childhood, and my parents were super supportive. And as I've grown up, I realized that if I want the brass ring, I'm the only person that's going to be able to go out and grab it, and nobody else can do it for me. And the other side of that is I'm constantly on social media. I'm managing the perception of what people are looking at right now. And I've always kind of been that way. And the reason is because there's no better advocate for you than you. Nobody knows your business better than you. And so if I'm going to continue to put myself out there, it needs to be in a positive way. When I think about the podcast that I'm doing, I tell my guests, look, I don't want any profanity or anything like that, because I'm trying to reach kids too. And I want my stuff to be able to get to a larger audience. So yeah, I try to keep a positive headspace, but I'm going to tell you, Ty, it's been hard, because I didn't just get, and I'm going to give you an example. I'm the self-confidence guy, right?
Yeah.
The book, as you see right here, is all about
Oh.
self-confidence. My self-confidence got rocked in such a massive way over the last year. I didn't just get laid off in June. I got laid off twice in 12 months. I got laid off a year prior from a job I worked for 14 years. Didn't see it coming. They did, just started chopping a bunch of people. They had to reduce the headcount. Found another job, got laid off from there again. So again, I got laid off twice in 12 months. That is a big hill to climb, and it rocked my self-confidence. And as the self-confidence guy, I just kept thinking, I can only control what I can control. Every day I need to be applying for jobs. Every day I need to be keeping track of things that are keeping my head above water. I've been lifting weights, going back to all these things just to try to keep my head space right, staying away from any kind of negativity or substances that might alter me in a way that I can't control. So for me, I have to keep smiling. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy.
Man, you're my positive influence, man. Shoot, like I said, man, I'm about to come to you for like keeping your head high, positive stuff. Like, break it down, because like if anybody watching the show right now, I've learned that the older you get, I've learned the biggest thing. I say this all the time on my shows is that tomorrow is never guaranteed. Don't take it for granted. You only get one life, just one. But I noticed that the older you get, I don't know if the phrase is called, Mike, but the older you get, I want less drama in my life. You get older, me, I'm married, you're married, and you just want all the toxic stuff away. But I think the hard times you ran into with, 2 job losses is that we have wrestling. I think wrestling is like that medicine that you can fall back on. Your podcast, my show, watch wrestling on TV. So I think wrestling is like a medicine for us.
Yeah, it's like a comfort food, right? I mean, I think about a lot of my best times in life in some way revolve around pro wrestling. And, that's not for everybody. Let's be real. Pro wrestling is not for everybody, but it's for me, it's for you, and it's for a lot of your listeners out here. So yeah, you're right. It's when things are tough, it's great to be able to just grab something that means comfort to you. That's just that you can just lose yourself in. And I often tell I just want to shut my brain off from time to time. I want to stop being able to think and just, pro wrestling right now, there's so much great stuff on TV. You can just shut your brain off and just enjoy the show. And that's huge. That's huge.
And I've kind of seen now social media, I don't know, describe fans watch my show. I'm thankful for my fans, but fans, seem like they kind of can be on the negative side about wrestling. On social media, I see it. But my thing is, Mike, is that just be thankful wrestling's still here. I mean, it's not how it was in the 80s or 90s, the attitude there. It's here. So be thankful that, we still have wrestling. I mean, because if somehow wrestling turned off like a light switch tomorrow, we'll be like, oh man, like what our medicine, like that sandwich on the table we want is gone. So
yeah.
What am I going to eat next? So
yeah, that's so true. The beauty about the internet is that people can go out and give their opinions about whatever they want. And it's sometimes unfiltered and for positive or for negative. But here's the deal. I would argue anybody to tell me a deeper fan base, a more passionate fan base than pro wrestling fans.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they really like to keep their pulse or their finger on the pulse of what's really going on in the wrestling world, even if they have never been in the ring before. That's passion. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really big deal to me. So when I see people out there that are saying things that are maybe below board, so to speak, I just take it with a grain of salt. I appreciate their opinion, but at the
Exactly.
same time, it's their opinion, and so you can do whatever you want with it. But the passion behind what they're doing is really kind of motivating for me.
Yeah, and that passion, like all wrestling fans know, I'm sure you do too, Mike. It's like for you when you're about to do a show, I'm sure you're either you may have your music pumping and you're just getting crazy ready for. And we all know we're getting ready for like a WrestleMania pay per view. You got the pizza ready, the wings, and like you just like so. I get goosebumps just talking about it now. Like you know how it is when you're getting ready for wrestling pay per view. Like it's that's like our Super Bowl as a wrestling fan,
For
and
sure.
you can't beat that. No matter what era it is, it's just that's the way it is. But Mike, I want to say this, like, if and this is for all the fans too. If fans don't know who Mike Kinney, is, what are they missing out on, man? Because you are the man. Like, you got the book back there. I'm gonna talk about that more later on. But like, what are fans missing out on who don't know about you? Because, like, man, you're like the encyclopedia to go to.
Well, so here's the deal. I had a really good run in pro wrestling as a wrestler. I really, really did. I learned from some fantastic people. And I was fortunate enough at one point to even learn from the great Harley Race. And I just look back at my time in the wrestling business, and I think, boy, for a limited skill set that I had in the ring, I knew how to be a showman. I wasn't a flyer. I was more of a brawler, but I knew how to market myself. I knew how to relate to people. I knew how to connect. And that's what continued to get me booked. I wrestled all over the country and Canada. And at the time, there wasn't very many other people. I'm domiciled out of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. There's not too many other people at that time that were traveling on somebody else's dime across the country. Maybe geographically within, a 2-3 state radius, they were doing well. But I was one of the only guys that was getting flown places during that era. To me, that's a big deal. And that all stems back to being self-aware and being able to market and things like that. Now, when I look at that 10 years, I also did a lot of promoting. I probably promoted, oh gosh, let's say 40 shows in those 10 years. And so again, having to deal with talent and have your own match, advertising, all of those things, I learned a lot about the business. So my 10-year snapshot was packed full of craziness. And I never went back to wrestling. The reason I didn't, I got out because I got hurt. I blew my shoulder out really bad and had to have several surgeries on it. And I almost lost the use of my arm. And I knew that if I got the surgery and I got hurt again, that I wasn't going to be able to go back or I wasn't going to be able to use my arm again. And so it was just one of those deals. My wife was pregnant at the time. And so it was time to move on. I had a great retirement show. Fans came out of the woodwork. We had this intimate little arena in southern Minnesota, and all these fans from over the years that knew me came to see me go. The boys came out at the end of the show, put me on their shoulders. I got to say goodbye, and I never went back. I got to wrestle one of my best friends in the main event. I went out on top. For a low level guy working the indies,
Like
I went out on top.
That's like that could be like the end of a movie.
Yeah. I mean, my pregnant wife is in the ring clapping, and I got a standing ovation. I could never replace that night, and so I never went back. It wasn't because I had heat with anybody. It wasn't because I didn't miss the boys. I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to put lightning in a bottle again, and so I left. And that was hard, but I left. Subsequently, I went on to do some other things. After I left wrestling, I went back to school. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree. I did. Yeah. And that was hard. I was, the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree. So that was a really big deal. And then after that, I just started working. I worked for UPS, and I loved working for UPS. That was the one that first layoff I told you about. I worked there for so long. And through UPS's relationship with the TED Talks organization, I went and did a TED Talk representing UPS, but I did a TED Talk where I talked about my time as a pro wrestler and how I learned self-confidence through my trials and tribulations on the road. And that was a great experience. It was, it gave me tons of exposure externally and to a point where I began really going out as a UPS ambassador, representing the organization, trying to recruit people to come and work while talking about self-confidence and my experience, and really using that TED Talk as the antithesis for people to want to understand who I am. As soon as that got done, I got my MBA. So at the time I was going back to college, I decided I wanted to go get my master's degree. So again, first person in my family to get a master's degree. Very proud of that. And then I started doing some speaking engagements and going out and just going to it was often schools too. And so I just have such a passion for going and speaking to children, and they're really drawn to that wrestling thing, which is great. And so, again, so I did those things, and I had this book idea looming over my head, and it really had started that my hometown in Southern Minnesota, when my TED Talk went live, I did an interview with them. And when the interview, they'd pre-recorded it, and then I saw the article come out online, and the gal who interviewed me lied. She said, and now he's working on his book. And I had friends calling me from my hometown. Dude, you're working on a book? Like, no, I'm not, but I guess now I have to. That's what planted the seed to do the book, because I thought, well, gosh, it wouldn't be a bad idea, but I never told anybody I was going to do that. Media, right? Media. Again, this goes back half of what you are, none of what you hear, and half of what you see. Okay. But yeah, so I started working on the book, and then through those 2 layoffs that I had a significant amount of time on my hands to be able to really put the screws to the text and be able to really push that out. And so I got rid of all the excuses and just said, I'm going to do the book. I'm going to continue speaking at as many schools as I can or wherever I can, and really trying to build a brand because, I'm going to be real with you, Ty. Here's the deal. It's really hard after getting laid off twice in 12 months to trust people.
Oh yeah. This world has, there's good people in the world and there's bad people. So you gotta, I always say, you gotta keep your eye out and ears open, and as people see that, you got the soft side, to bite you in the booty.
That's true. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to have a hard time trusting people, I can trust myself, and I can build my brand, and I can control again what I can control. And so if I'm going to continue to build a brand, then I'm just going to put the pedal to the floor, and that's the only way I do it. And so that's what I've been doing, and trying to really, and then the podcast really came about because I started thinking about a second book, and shame on me for doing that because I haven't really made that public knowledge either. But I started I started thinking about a second book, and then I thought, well, if I want to write it, because I love the idea of being able to redream. And this is what I talk to students about, is you get told your entire life you can be whatever you want to be until you can't, and then you have to figure out what the rest of your life is going to look like. That piece about pivoting, your dream is over, and then what are you going to do next? We never ever get taught that in any school. Our parents barely know how to. I mean, it's not something we learn about in society. Think about any NFL player who plays in the pros and then all of a sudden blows his knee out and cannot play anymore.
Exactly.
What do you do next? And so that piece, I thought, if I'm interviewing people who have lived some kind of dream and had to pivot along the way, I can start using that material for my book. And so that's what really motivated me to want to do the podcast in the way that I'm doing it, is really I'm building a platform for me to be able to borrow from myself to put in my book.
Man, he's, you know what, I'm gonna say this live on Off the Top Rope, like I said, anniversary special, is that, we all know the movie Magic Mike. So ladies, I know ladies, I like Magic Mike, but the Magic Mike I got on my show, Magic Mike Kinney, I'm gonna take him over doing the Magic Mike movie. So ladies, because Mike Kinney is live here on Off the Top Rope Wednesday night tonight. If you want to ask him a question about his book, what he has coming up next, you want to ask him about being a promoter, leave a comment. I'll read it on the air so Mike can answer, because Mike Kinney is live on the show tonight. That's the Magic Mike. I'll take the one I'm interviewing right now here on Off the Top Rope. Now, Mike, the one thing I'd ask you, I got to pick your brain about this, because you took pride in being a good character in wrestling. And I want to show this clip to you, of course, because, when it comes up, doing a fictional character for you, when you wrestle, like today, is there a difference today in creating a character than when you were wrestling? Because wrestling, it changes.
Oftentimes the promoter is really going to decide that for you.
Yeah.
The beauty about working the independents regionally is you get to know the promoters really, really well, and they begin to see where you jive with the fans. Now, I started working as a heel, and I think it was just because of my look. I'm, just rugged. I wasn't this chiseled dude. I look like a guy who would get in a bar fight.
Yeah.
Well, what was happening is that I was connecting with people and they were loving to hate me, but all of a sudden they started to change. And there was one promotion I was wrestling for almost weekly, and which is unheard of, running an independent show weekly. But those fans really started cheering me so much that it was hard to be. It's almost a Stone Cold thing.
Yeah, with a reverse. Right. I remember.
Exactly right. So it became an issue. Yeah. They cheered Steve Austin so much when he was a bad guy, they had no choice but to make him a good guy.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. And it not only propelled my independent career, it really began to help me with selling. And not selling books, but selling in the ring, selling your facials. Like, I'm not exposing the business. You guys all know what selling is. So, but that was the reality. As a heel, you're not selling very often. You're really just running the match. But as a babyface, selling is a huge deal. Bret Hart had his entire career based around being able to sell like nobody else. He's still one of the best in the world. Now, that is what made me such a great babyface, is I was able to learn that really, really quickly and connect with fans. But that connecting piece is something that I've taken with me. Now, when I went, I could also be a very, very good heel. I did a bunch of shows for the Insane Clown Posse, and which is its own crazy nightmare sometimes. But those fans are so passionate that I often feared for my life, because they had me wrestling as a heel, and I'm not exaggerating. I was they would throw things at me. People had weapons. They were trying to stab you. It was, the Juggalos don't mess around. And so I had such a great time in that environment being a heel. Everywhere else, I preferred to be the baby face, just because I loved being able to sell and connecting with people.
Yeah. Mike, and everything you said, like I said, you just really hit the nail on the head. And which really brings us to, all about being a wrestling promoter. And I'm sure there's people probably watching the show and who want to be wrestling promoters. And if you had to give people advice about being a wrestling promoter, like you said, it's up to the promoter to tell the character, this is what you're going to be tonight and 2 weeks, in advance or whatever. But is it good as a promoter to, if a talent wants to do something, is it good to say, go out and try? If it doesn't work, we can go back to the wall, throw it to the wall and see what sticks? Or like, is that a good thing? Just maybe say, go out and try. If it don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board.
I think that's situational. However, I think so. Pro wrestlers they live by the mentality, those who ask for more get more. They're always going to ask for more, always, from the promoter. A good promoter will stand their ground and say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. This is what needs to take place in this match. This is what I need from you. In addition to that, they need to be really good at saying things to the overall crew. Maybe they don't want blood, or maybe they don't want anybody fighting outside the ring. Whatever their stance is on their very particular product, they need to be able to stand their ground, because they will be tested. It's just like having a bunch of children around. They will be tested. Exactly. and the best promoters stand their ground. The even better promoters pay you at the end of the night, but that's a totally other deal. But if you are interested in promoting wrestling shows and you get into the business, just remember, you have to stand your ground. And you can do it in a very, nice way. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a standoffish environment, but just, you're the boss. And so you need to act like the boss. Don't let anybody walk on you.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, because it's just like, and credit to you and all the promoters who do it. I thought about trying to like promote like in the past, but I'm staying behind the microphone. I couldn't do it, but props to you for doing it. Like you said, it's like, you're like pretty much the parent of so many talented athletes, and it's just like, from the outside the talent, like you, you got production, the rings, the fans, promotion, just like, I'm just even like, man, power to you for doing it, and all the promoters out there.
Yeah, no kidding. It very much is a small business, and you are the CEO of every single department: marketing, sales, operations, finance, all of it. You're the person, and whether for better for worse, that's what you signed up for.
You know, like I saw this clip. I'm gonna go to the Facebook Focus, and I figured just give you a good laugh and roll this clip. Now, man, when I saw this brisket, dude, I got to ask you, how many times when you did this brisket, have you tried to think about sneaking it to a wrestling match? I mean, you cut it up in little pieces and try to sneak it in because, you know, venues, they want you to buy their stuff. Have you ever tried to do that?
I have not. I've thought about catering though, and yeah, that's one of my better briskets right there. When I when I got out of wrestling, I wanted to find something that would help me be as creative as I could while staying away from wrestling. And I discovered barbecue, and that was about 10 years ago. I bought my first smoker, and I took along the way, I've taken some barbecue classes. I became a certified barbecue judge. I was traveling, doing some contests. And then I started learning from restaurateurs about how they do their food, and upgraded smokers along the way. Almost a year ago to the day, I drove down to Texas from Minnesota to pick up this custom made 100-gallon offset smoker that I had built. The guy builds them for the top restaurants in Texas, and he was building some backyard ones at the time, and I had to get my hands on one. So I drove down to pick it up. And I love the creative process of cooking. My briskets take about 17 hours, and some guys don't like that, and that's fine. I need to be hands-on with my food. I want to be involved the whole way. So I just have such a passion for barbecue now. And that's why I got my Body Slam barbecue shirt on. So along the way, I thought, because I was doing some contests and I needed a team name, and I came up with Body Slam Barbecue. And so that's just kind of if you see Body Slam Barbecue hashtags or anything when I post, that's just me having fun with my backyard stuff and just having a good time.
Dude, I saw it's tasty good. And, man, I got to say, my anniversary next year, I'm gonna invite you on the show, and if you can, man, it may get delayed or it might be cold when it gets here. You gotta send me a plate, man, with some mac and cheese and coleslaw. I don't want to talk about it no more. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry too.
So I see the book back there, but we're gonna go to your book real soon. I'm really proud of you, what you've done with your book. But you're a wrestling fan, I'm a wrestling fan, and wrestling is so crowded, which is a good thing with WWE. AEW, NWA, you got Ring of Honor, Impact. If you real quick can think of each promotion, just real quick, what would be one good thing about each promotion, or a promotion that I'm not even talking about, or if there's one that we don't even know about?
Sure. Let's see how fast I can do this. WWE, it's sad to see Vince go, but I'm really excited for what the future is going to look like, because they've already made some really, really nice changes, and it's so exciting to be a fan right now, especially of that product. Okay. AEW, I really enjoy the idea that they want to bring different elements back, and specifically I start thinking about hardcore matches, some blood. They're not afraid to put guys on the shows that other promotions won't put on. And exactly. It's also a really great place for young talent to cut their teeth on TV. Yeah. So that's the big two right now, right? Those two. And then I look at Ring of Honor. I was such a big Ring of Honor fan. When that first year Ring of Honor came out, my friend and I drove from Minneapolis to Philly to see. Ooh. Yeah. And that was and my wife came, and she was my girlfriend at the time, hates wrestling, by the way. She hates wrestling, but she came with anyway. And because Ring of Honor it was their all-star extravaganza show. So they had the Japanese folks in town. So Otani and Tanaka were in, and some other folks, and I had to go and see it for myself. And so I've been such a big Ring of Honor fan for all these years. I'm really glad to see a resurgence, especially putting the belt on Claudio. Yeah. And I got to work with Claudio when I was on the Indies, which is super cool to see him having done so well. But anyway, so yeah, I just think that's a product that I'm really glad they took the belt off of who was the world champion up until a minute ago.
Oh, Jonathan Gresham for Ring of Honor. Yeah.
Great technical wrestler, not world title caliber type of talent, but that's my opinion. Claudio, different deal for sure, world champion material. Yeah, I'm really excited for that product to continue to go the way it needs to. And there's all kinds. You look at the NWA. NWA has some killer shows right now. I don't know if you've seen any of their stuff.
I really love they're going old school. They got the old school set up, and I really love what they're doing. They do just small shows, and I had their announcer Joe Galley on the show, and they're doing really big things. I like what they're doing, and I really like TNA, which is Impact. Their research. I'm really looking at GCW, and they're coming up too. So GCW.
I'm a closet GCW fan. I really am.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest light tubes guy, right? But I appreciate what they're doing. Their fan base, and I'm a huge ECW fan, huge.
Oh, yeah.
So their fan base reminds me a little bit of that. And so that's I've glommed on to bits and pieces of GCW just because of that.
Mike, you of course you know Minnesota quite well. Huge wrestling state. Two of my favorites who have passed on. God bless them. We're from there. Of course, we got Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig, two of my favorites all time. But when you look at Philly, you've been to Philly. Philly loves their wrestling. Philly is one of them cities. They don't play either. They love you. If they hate you, Philly hates you. But I'm glad you came to Philly because I grew up around the area. Philly, ECW, yeah, old classic Spectrum wrestling, which I grew up on. Philly's definitely a good town. But like you said, Mike, we're blessed to have wrestling with all the promotion. And now we get to pick, because before, and I'm a WWE guy, Vince guy, they were like for a little bit the only show in town. Now you got so many promotions that are up and coming. Now we talked about some promotions, but now we got to talk about the biggest thing of all. And I'm so excited for this. Of course, the winner is Mike Kinney, because best-selling author, released on August 10th, baby, with his book, of course, A Pro Wrestler's Guide to Confidence. Now, I want to ask you, like you said about the process of your book. You said it took just somebody saying, "Hey, Mike, how are you doing a book?" And you said, "Boom," it just blew up like that.
Yeah, when I was in college, my undergrad was in creative writing. So I majored in English with an emphasis in creative writing. My final paper for graduation, we had to write something about a life story. And I don't remember how many pages it had to be. That doesn't even matter. But it had to be something personal to you. So this is pre-TED Talk, like anything. I've been just out of wrestling for a couple of years at this point. So if you get my book, the second chapter is what I wrote for my college paper. And the second chapter is all about having lost my dad at a very young age. My TED Talk has a lot of that in it. And it's almost like the central pivoting point in my life where I had to choose a path. So I already knew I had chapter 2 done. It was graded. I remember my professor telling me, "Mike, you can always hang your hat on this," because it was fantastic. The problem is that I didn't have anything else written out. So the beauty of having done the TED Talk is when I got serious about really doing the book, I listened to the TED Talk again and I took notes on myself. In what order do I tell this story? Because I wanted the book to be the longer version of the TED Talk. And when I love to read anyway. And again, I realize that's not for everybody either, but I do. I'm a reader. I'm a high impact reader. And what I mean by that is when I read a book, I have my pen or my highlighter, and I'm constantly keep taking notes in the book. And then what I do is when I'm done, I'll put little tabs in each page where I've written notes or highlighted something. And then I'll take a note card, write the information down, and I put them into a box. And so I have all this great information at my fingertips at all times. So what I did was I laid out the TED Talk almost exactly like a high school paper, research paper. I had the outline, and then I started going through my notes. I had all this great research. And so I'm like, okay, I'll plug some of this in. The problem was it was almost a reverse of what a lot of people have. A lot of people want to tell their story and don't have any research behind it. I had so much research. I had forgotten to plug my story in some areas. So I was constantly going back and having to put my story in over and over and over again, because it was so important. The book is only 100 pages, but I packed a lot in there in a very, very short amount of time. And it went through a line editor, a copy editor. I mean, it was a very professional process to get this thing done, because I went through a class about just under a year ago to become a certified life coach. And during that class, we had to do some role plays with other people who wanted to be life coaches. And there was this gal from California. 70 years old, sweet as pie. And I remember she looked at me, we're just doing a one-on-one like you and I are doing now. And she said, and I brought the book up about how it's looming over me and I needed to finish it. And she asked me what I was risking by not finishing the book. And then I started thinking about it. She said, "Is your responsibility to tell your story to other people and especially leave that as a legacy behind for your children." And in that moment, I decided it's time to move forward on this deal for sure and get really serious about the book. And so I did. And luckily, I mean, Ty, I did not think that this thing was going to become a bestseller. It became a bestseller in the first day. And I didn't make that public knowledge because I thought, this can't be right. It can't be a bestseller in the first day. So the thing goes live. It went live last week. It goes live on a Wednesday. My wife and I fly out to Maine for vacation on Thursday. And so I am constantly looking at my phone like, this can't be real. This can't be real. And then all of a sudden I'm getting the numbers back from Amazon, all of the orders that come through. I was starting to see it and I was floored. I have such a great fan base and tons of support, friends and family. Everybody went and bought the book and it became a bestseller overnight. And I'm just so grateful that it happened. I couldn't have planned it better, to be honest with you. It's pretty amazing.
Man. Well, I think in like that, never say never. I mean, you never know what can happen. And the lady said, "What are you risking?" You took that what she said, and you just pretty much did the slam dunk and took it. Now where you at, man? Best-selling author, and you never know what can happen in life. Like life is funny like that. Something somebody can say, put it in your mind, and you do something, and boom, it blows up. And like I said, you got the book now. It's God can work in mysterious ways, but God
That's so true. Yeah. and the other thing I want to say about the process, because there are plenty of people out there that always say they want to write a book, but they'll always put some barrier in front of themselves. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get published. I don't know how to do all these things. Well, Ty, here's the reality of it. I self-published the book. Why? Because that was the fastest way to get that thing to market. I didn't want to have to rely on anybody else again to be able to market me the way I need to market. Now, there's some risk involved with that because I had to pay some money out of pocket to be able to make it happen. Not a lot, $500 maybe or less by the time I had people edit it and things. But I eliminated the barriers and got it done. Just like how we talked about, it's so easy now to get wrestling information from anywhere you want. It's the Renaissance, really. Self-publishing is the same thing. There's so much information out there. Self-publishing isn't frowned upon like it was a decade ago. You can go out there, you can self-publish your own stuff, get your stuff out there. There's nothing holding you back. You don't need a publisher to do it. You be your own publisher. Just get it out there and great things can happen. And I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, it's like anymore to publish yourself, market yourself. Like you said, Russell, now with technology, we talked about this at the top of the show, you can take your phone and pretty much promote yourself. That's where cell phones, the old flip phones, you couldn't do that. It was just you're talking, you're done. Now you got technology on your phone where you can do your own business on your phone by promoting yourself. And
for sure,
that's where it's a really crazy thing, but also it's a good thing because it brings us pleasure and for us to be happy. And Mike, this is your first time off the top rope, so I try to always stump my guests with this question. So you ready for the next segment?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna roll the clip and we're gonna rock and roll and see if we can.
Damn, Ty. That's good.
All right. So the clip is, if it looked out, all right, Mike Kinney, is returning to the ring, which that'd be cool as hell if you did. Pick one wrestler from today. Who would it be? From what promotion? The wrestling venue, and a newly gimmick match you created.
Okay, I can do this. I really like Brody King.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. And I think he's such an underrated talent. I got to see some of him in Ring of Honor. And then now he's in AEW making some really great product pieces for us.
Throwing Darby Allin around.
Oh, yeah. I would love to just have like Haas versus Haas and just have it out with him. So I would pick one-on-one Brody King. in terms of a promotion, I would love to be able to work for AEW if I was still in the business. I think AEW is a really great product. But I'm going to say, but I would much rather have that match be in Ring of Honor, just because I followed them for so long and love that product. I used to send audition tapes to them. I remember CM Punk. I don't know if you know who Eric Cannon is. So Eric Cannon and I went to the same school together, and he knew Punk. And back when Punk was in cahoots with Gabe Sapolsky, when Gabe was still the booker, I was sending my tapes in, and Punk's telling Cannon, tell this goof to stop sending these tapes in. We're not booking the guy. But and whatever and I certainly wasn't Ring of Honor caliber, but I was trying, and I would love to be able to, if I got to pick any promotion, that would be the one.
Right.
Now, venues, let's talk about Philly for a second. ECW, I'm such a huge fan. In fact, I'm thinking about going back to Philadelphia in December because they're talking about doing an ECW reunion show at 2300 Arena, or the former ECW Arena. I'm thinking about going. That was one of my goals as a wrestler, was to work in that building, and I never got to do it. And so I would certainly pick that as the venue to have my match. Ooh. Yeah. I would love to do that.
I see. I mean, I know it's I said a newly gimmick creative match. I think you and Brody in the ECW Arena 2300 now. Street fight, that cold South Philly weather, man. Oh, that would be, because you and him, y'all big dudes, man. Oh,
yeah, there'd be a lot. I was a bleeder too, and I know he loves to get some color, and so it'd be a nice bloody tribute to the venue for sure. Yeah.
I'd have a plate of your brisket watching that, man. But yeah, just a quick thing about the 2300 Arena. I went there. I used to go to ECW. I used to go there when they were hot. I went there for CCW, and I went back there for a convention. And I went there, and they renovated it. I didn't know it looked like a totally different building. I'm like, my building. They've renovated it. It's like got new life now, because wrestling's there all the time. I mean, so many people run there, and it's just fabulous. And I think if you're considering going to Philly, yeah, you should make the trip, because I'm not in Philly anymore, but I got to get back to Philly.
Yeah,
for some wrestling.
Yeah, I went to Philadelphia for work a few years back, and I went to the arena, but it wasn't open, so I took some pictures outside. But I was very, very lucky. So when I told you that I went to that Ring of Honor show back at the end of 2002, that same day they did a doubleheader with CZW. So CZW was running that night at the arena. So we walked from the Murphy Rec Center. We walked down to Swanson Rittner to go to the arena. And this is before they renovated it. And I was friends with Nick Mondo, because he was from the Twin Cities. So we went to that show, which was this crazy, like wild CZW show. It was my first and only one I'd ever been to. It was awesome. And then afterwards hung out, and Mondo like gave us the tour of the building. Like we went up on the nest and everything, and got to see it before it really got renovated. So it was still real nasty, like ECW nasty. So that was awesome.
It was, but I didn't know that. Like I said, people watching the show, Mike said they're planning an ECW reunion show now. Did they say what the month is? I know fans are gonna be like, "Oh shit!" So.
I even know the date, and I'm not even working for them. I should get paid for this, Ty. But it's December 17th. They're expecting to have some extreme reunion. So, and I'm really considering going. I just would love to get out there and be a part of it.
Like I said, this show has been amazing, and Mike, I got to say, man, and you got to do this for me. The book is behind you, it's back there. So, man, I want you to slam and promote your book, because, man, for you from TED TV, you got your book, man. I got your Twitter up, Instagram, TikTok, man. Like I said, promote it, Mike. Let everybody know about the book, TED.com, and what's up next for you, man.
So the book itself, again, is really just, I'm so proud of it. It's a memoir of my life, living on the road as just this crazy wrestler. And I'm just so proud to have it out there. And so go out and check it out. If you're not a reader, that's okay. It's 100 pages. It's a very quick read. The Kindle version's out there for $2.99, or you can buy the paperback for $11.99. And I promise you that if I see you in person and you have the book in hand, I will sign that book for you. No problem. I won't even charge you. What's next for me? Just follow me on social media. I'm going to be regularly putting out podcast episodes, and continuing to evolve that product the best I can. I'm taking speaking engagements. So if you're out there and you work for somebody who wants to bring in a motivational speaker, hit me up. Let's have a conversation. My fees vary in price, and I can really customize a program for any size of audience. So please feel free to reach out to me. My actual website is aprowrestlersguide.com, and you can certainly contact me through there or any of my social media platforms.
And like I said, he put everything down for you. Like I said, he'll you buy his book, he'll sign it for you. Like I said, this man, like I said, that's why I'm calling him. Like I said, again, he is, of course, Magic Mike Kinney. He is the man. And also, like I said, he was, like I said, on tonight's 5-year anniversary episode of Off the Top Rope. And I can't ask for bigger anniversary than this. Mike, like I said, man, you are the man. And most importantly, man, I'm proud of you with the book. Keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, man, and just keep making magic and wrestling, man. And God bless and make us all proud, man. You've already done that, my man.
Hey, it's been such a pleasure to be here. I'm thankful for the opportunity. And listen, congratulations on 5 years. That's such a massive accomplishment. My hat's off to you, and you deserve all the success in the world. Congratulations.
And of course, Mike, I asked the big question. From 1 to 10, would you ever come back on Off the Top Rope so we could party up again, man?
Oh, 10 for sure. Maybe 11, 12, 13. Let's do it again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, like I said, best-selling #1 author in wrestling, promoter, public speaker. He does it all, man. Like I said, Magic Mike Kinney was my live guest tonight, and this show was as good as brisket. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Ty Asbury. Thank you, like I said, for my live guest tonight, Mike Kinney. I'm your boy Ty Asbury. As I always say, love yourself, love God. We are out of here. Have a great night, everybody. God bless.
The Ropes Media. Tyrod